So, like the rest of you, on a Monday afternoon, I'm hiding from my employer. I'm not really doing the work that I should be because it's been a heavy weekend and things are a bit slower at the start of the week. So instead, I want to reach out to all the people that clicked subscribe on the last videos. You guys will all have a notification now to say that there's a new video available to watch for Lost Crusade. And hopefully I can distract you from your working week as well. So the last videos were about how troops win combat, not heroes. But then the elephant in the room is that if you don't have tier 9 troops, then you're not going to win. And that's a bit grim, and it starts to create a bit of a barrier and take some of the fun out of it. Tier 8 troops are never going to beat tier 9. You can injure a tier 9 player, but you're not going to be able to wipe them out. So let's look at some of the requirements that you need to get there. And the plan is to give you 5 tips during this video that I wish I knew at the start of my Lost Crusade career just over a year ago. In order to get tier 9 troops, you need Battle Barge level 40. And the requirements for Battle Barge level 40 are somewhat frightening. So I'm in server 33. They're all slightly different requirements, but we needed nearly, it's somewhere between 500 and 600 million resources. But I also want to point out that time is a constraint as well, and none of us want to wait for over a month. Once we've managed to get all those resources together, we don't want to wait a month for it to happen. If we can, we want to start recovering that in a day, maybe 2 at best. And we want to do that without having to pay big money. So tip number 1 is we ignore these. These are resources. And a level 5 resource node is going to give us nearly 500,000 resources. You can get level 6, but most of the players will be there already. So if I try and collect a level 5 resource node, it's going to show me that it takes 2 hours to generate 500,000 resources. If we're trying to get to 500 or 600 million, we could be playing this game for 5 or 6 years. We're still never going to get our tier 9 troops that we need. Instead, I'm going to tell you that these are our resources. So this is an enemy player's base, but they're inactive. And I know that they're inactive because if I click on the statistics of Coffee Break as a player, it says army power 0. So that means that he's no longer playing the game because as soon as a player is hit, they will recover their troops and they will have an army. So if we do a quick scout report to see what's inside Coffee Break, and the game is somewhat slow today, we're going to see that the typical base over level 30 is going to be holding between 800,000 and 1.2 million resources. And if they're not using it, well then we may as well take it. There's only going to be 3 level 1 intercessors to defend the base, so it doesn't matter what army we send, we're going to beat them without any casualties. And, you know, if we consider the time it takes to harvest this, well, it's going to take us 55 seconds to get there, it's going to take us 55 seconds to get back. So when we compare the 2 hours to get 500,000 resources, or less, against 2 minutes to get 1 million resources, or in this case I think it's about 1.2 million, then we can quickly see how resources are no longer going to be our problem. We've got 5 marches at any time. We don't want to be playing the game all day, we want to be logging on for 10 minutes at a time and then perhaps turning it off and going back to work. If we spend 10 minutes on the game, at this rate, we can get 10 million resources quite quickly. If we spend an hour on the game over the duration of a day, then we would get 60 million resources for following these exercises. The problem with harvesting dead bases, though, is you get no control over what you're going to receive, and you end up with an unbalanced resource supply. So you can see here that I've got 250 million fuel, but I've only got 5 million plasma. So tip number 2 is balancing the resources. And we've got the rogue trader here. If I was thinking ahead, I wouldn't have harvested it before the video. Rogue trader is great because you can buy player experience, which is crucial for tip number 3. but you can also buy the resources that you have least of with the resources that you have most of. So I was just in time for that. So tip number 2 is to use the rogue trader. Keep checking it every time you're online. It'll stay there for 2 hours at a time, and as you can see, it takes 4 hours to respawn. But why do we want character experience? So this was tip 3. I'm going to use a working example. I've already built BB40, so I can't show you the impact on that. But if I was to upgrade the Administratum, for example, it's going to take me, ignore the resources, we've talked about resources, it's going to take me 15 days to upgrade that. And I don't want to be waiting 2 weeks for anything, and I don't want to have to pay for it. So the first thing that we're going to look at is player strategy. So after VIP 7, you get 3 parallel player strategies. What I tend to use is strategy 1 is for harvesting resources, and it's for building. I mean, you've also got things like research in there, but strategy 2 is combat, strategy 3 is troop training. So I'm going to activate strategy 1, and then we're going to go back to the Administratum to see what difference that's made. And straight away, we've knocked over 24 hours off our build time. So we get it a day earlier than we would have done without using this strategy. And we've not had to pay for anything. So we still don't want to wait 2 weeks. That's too much. So tip number 4 is going to be appointing the right heroes. Now, you can use the auto appoint function, and based on the heroes that you've got, it's going to fill every slot with what it thinks is best for you for an all-round play experience. But you've got the opportunity to set presets at the bottom, and by selecting the most powerful heroes as the builders, I'm not even going to bother filling out the rest of them. Then we can look at the impact that this makes on our Administratum. So now if we go to upgrade it, instead of looking at the 15 hours that we started with, we're down to half. We're down to just over 8, well, it's nearly 9 hours. So we've halved the time that it takes. Finally, tip number 5, and this is often overlooked. You can see in the bottom right hand corner, if I press this icon with the number 4 above it, it disappears. Now that allows me to help my allies in speeding up their bases. We can go into this in detail by looking at the helping hands. And what we can see is I'm currently building the defense array, which 22 people have been able to help me with, and I'm building a plasma power plant, which 12 people have been able to help me with. So it's roughly double the amount of people have helped me with defense array as they have with power plant, because I've not been building the power plant for as long. But it's not double the time. The power plant has saved me nearly 1 hour, but the defense array is nearly 6 times more. So again, if we look at the battle barge as our guide for something with a bit more time to measure, I took a screenshot here after 23 people had helped me with the battle barge, and it was the equivalent of over 4 days saved. So working on the principle that with player strategy and the correct appointed heroes, we can halve the time. So we go from 33 days down to, let's say, 15 days. So we've gone from over a month down to 2 weeks. Then we look at the helping hands. Well, what this is actually doing is, for every 1 helping hand, every 1 ally that presses help, we get 1% saved. So if they're going to contribute by a percentage, we want them to have the percentage over the largest amount of time. Let's assume that I've saved up 4 or 5 days speed up times, speed up items. If I use those before giving my allies a chance to help me, then the percentage that they're contributing is over a smaller amount of time left. I want to get the maximum help from my allies. I want to get all 30 helping hands before I start using my own speed ups. Because now if I've got those 4 or 5 days saved, then I'm going to see a BB40 reduced from a month wait time down to just a matter of days. And that's how you're going to get to tier 9 troops a lot faster. You're going to generally upgrade faster. And I hope this gives you the experience that you need to chase and get up to speed with the rest of us and start getting involved in some of the competitive events. So once again, if you haven't subscribed already and you find this content useful, click subscribe. There's a little button in the bottom right hand corner. If you think I've missed anything, if you think I've said something wrong, then challenge me in the comments and either I'll agree with you, I'll disagree with you, or it will inspire the next video. But until then, good luck with the rest of Monday. I hope you have a great week ahead of you, and I'll see you next week.